Welcome, guys.
Hey
Hello.
everyone.
It's great to see everyone. Welcome, guys, everyone, to the rundown. I'll give a little introduction of what the rundown is, a little bit about Midas Varsity Blue itself, and then Liam, you can give a little introduction about Midas University and Midas Touch.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, first of all, once again, thank you guys all for coming. Midas Varsity Blue is the high school initiative of Midas Touch. Essentially, what Midas Varsity Blue rundown is we give a rundown of kind of the main themes and the events of the week. And so the purpose of Midas Varsity Blue, and we started with the goal of finding different ways for people to be, for high schoolers specifically, to be engaged and to spread civic engagement. And so this is one of the ways we've been doing so. And so, yeah, that's really it. And so the Midas Varsity Blue rundown is an opportunity for high schoolers to share their voice and their opinions on what's going on in the week. And also, we started incorporating this new thing where we have youth organizations as well be on the rundown, where they can kind of share their message and spread their voice too. So today we're thankful to have Voters of Tomorrow on in just a little bit, and we'll learn a little bit more about them later. So yeah, Liam, do you want to talk about Midas University?
Yes. Midas University is the collegiate version of Midas Varsity Blue and Midas Touch. What we do is we work hand in hand to work with Midas Varsity Blue and Midas Touch and to enhance young people's voices in politics. That is something that we really hold strongly and that we believe very much in. We always want to make sure that young people have a voice in politics nowadays. And we do this through a variety of ways, through amplification online, through in-person initiatives, and really basically try any creative way that we can basically get involved, and that anyone wants to get involved, we are more than willing to, and we encourage people to tell us what to do, and we love having fun and just coming up with fun, creative solutions. We're basically here to kind of disrupt the systems and to try to get out of the rut that politics is in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well said. And once again, we'll talk about this more later, but like Liam said, if you want to join either Midas Varsity Blue or Midas University, feel free to let us know and reach out to us on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. So yeah, we can get started in just a bit. I know Voters of Tomorrow will be joining us soon. They're an organization with kind of the goal of also spreading civic engagement, also getting people who are eligible to vote. So they have, so we're excited to have them on soon. And like I said, later we'll be discussing some of the hot topics of the week, such as reproductive healthcare is one. We'll be talking about electric cars and innovation, specifically the new Ford F-150 electric car. And we'll be talking a little bit about Biden's signing of the anti-Asian hate bill, and just like bipartisanship. And yeah, I guess we could get started on one topic. Now that while we're waiting, do you want to start with reproductive health care? Sure. Okay, cool. So just to start off, this past week, the Supreme Court agreed to review the decision by a lower court in Mississippi, saying that banning abortions after 15 weeks is unconstitutional. And so now, given the fact that the Supreme Court is majority Republican, do you think that this ruling will be overturned? And do you think that this could ultimately lead to a larger voting turnout in the 2022 elections? Arty, do you want to start?
Sure. I definitely think that it's definitely in danger of kind of chipping away at that precedent we've set with Roe v. Wade. But just historically, we know that precedent does have a certain amount of power in terms of like decisions being made in the Supreme Court, and the new inductees, even during Trump's era, have said that they've got respect for precedent. But just seeing, the way that some votes have gone and the way that politics is now, it's really hard to say what's going to happen. Unfortunately, the way that some states are introducing more and more legislation similar to this, I know Texas and Louisiana has most recently I think it's going towards kind of the bad option of chipping away at Roe v. Wade. And we've done it on the state level so severely that it's kind of seeming less and less extreme to do it on the federal level almost. But
yeah, no, absolutely. But do you think that this is an opportunity for more people to be aware of, or for more people to be kind of engaged, and for them to have an opportunity to allow their voices to be heard by voting? Or in the future, like, do you think we'll see more of a voter turnout from things like this? Or
I hope so, and I really do think that this can be something where we can get women to turn out, hopefully, and just people to turn out in general, just because a lot of the legislation being introduced, even going beyond this like moral question and all these things that arise about reproductive health care, there's literal like inaccuracies written into legislation. There's procedures that don't exist that are right now passed in that pieces of legislation in Georgia and Alabama. So I think it goes beyond the question of just, are we showing up for this moral question of, do I support abortion or not? Are you showing up to say that you support women, that you support good legislation, you support good senators? And I guess it encompasses more than we think.
okay, awesome. Well, I don't want to hold. I know that we have our guest here today. I think we can talk about more about reproductive healthcare after. But I'm excited to welcome Grace, who's a member of the Voters of Tomorrow organizations. So welcome, Grace. It's a pleasure to have you on. And so we have some questions for you. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you joined Voters of Tomorrow, and yeah, the reason why you got involved.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Grace Friedman. I'm 16 years old. Today was my last day as a junior in high school. So, but
Congrats.
I got involved, thank you. I got involved in politics probably around 2 years ago I went to my first climate strike with a friend. And from that, I started looking more into politics and stuff. And then I heard about Voters of Tomorrow from another friend. And I was so interested in everything that they were doing, everything that had to do with civic engagement. It was incredible. So, and I actually got involved at a great time right before the 2020 election. So everything was running, and I just started getting involved in all these amazing programs that they have, like this podcast that we started doing called the Vodcast, where we have these guests come on and talk about all sorts of different issues, and our education program, getting civic education into schools. And so there was just so much to do, so much that we were trying to accomplish. And yeah.
That's awesome. Nick, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hi, Grace. Thank you for being here. So the first question I have is, so what are the most important issues coming up in 2022 and beyond?
That's a big question, obviously, but climate change, for one, is huge. I started off as a climate change activist. That's one of my biggest, there's no other issues unless we solve climate change. But definitely gun violence, especially for people our age. We're seeing our country torn apart by gun violence in schools, in public places, and and especially this year, we've seen definitely an uptake in people talking about racial and economic equality, and how we still have so far to go before our country is truly equal. But the biggest thing we can do is, and you talked about 2022, vote in 2022, because especially because this election, 2020 was so hyped up. Everyone was talking about it for months before. The non-presidential elections don't get as much attention. So we just want to make it so clear to people that it's so important to vote in every election, no matter if you're voting for president or not. And that's the first step to solving all the issues I just talked about.
I guess I can go next. I have a question. So just in the political world where we are now, where everything's so partisan, and even issues like infrastructure are things that we often can't reach by partisanship on, what do you think? Do you think there's room to, I guess, cooperation and with both parties moving forward?
Yeah, so like you just said, our country right now is so divided. It's so either you're on one side or the other, and it's really hard to find a middle ground right now. The first thing I'm going to say is you can't cooperate with people who don't believe in democracy. There's a whole nother level that we've seen recently that with what happened on January 6th and what's been going on with the rumors about the 2020 election, there's just so much that we are divided on that. But there's also people who we can see that we can reach a middle ground with, rational Republicans, if you want to say that, that we can definitely come together with and solve those issues like infrastructure we can find a common ground on. And even if you have to compromise, even if it's not what the far left wants, or if it's not what the far right wants, what we all really want is just a safe country, a country where everyone can have equal opportunity. And so there's definitely a way, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of healing, and it's going to take compromise.
Hi, Grace. Thank you so much for joining us today. My question is, what is the most impactful thing that youth can do to help make their voices heard?
First of all, vote. Vote, 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 vote. That is the one biggest thing I can tell you. And being 16, I'm not sure how old you guys are, but I can't vote. I wasn't able to vote in 2020, no matter how much I wanted to. And I won't be able to vote in 2022. Yeah, I will, actually. That was wrong. I will be able to vote in 2022, which is exciting. But like 2020, if you can't vote, tell people to vote. Tell your friends and family that can. And because the more people talk about it, the more people speak up, the louder we are, the more people are going to hear us. And so just like you guys being youth that are involved in politics, like literally the louder we can be, the more people that come together and talk about all these important issues, the more government officials are going to hear what we have to say. The more adults are going to be like, oh, these kids might know what they're talking about and are going to listen to us, because everyone knows how hard it is to get your voice out there. And especially for people our age, we're not taken seriously a lot of the time. So the most impactful thing you can do is go to events, go to protests, make your voices heard. Vote Is Tomorrow is a podcast where I mentioned before, we talk about tons of important issues with people of all ages, and listen, talk, even new social media platforms allow people to share their opinions so widely spread. Just make your voice heard.
Thank you so much.
Very well said. No, thank you once again. And that's kind of just like the goal of our initiative as well. And I think that's important. And you touched on it a lot in this idea that regardless if you can vote or not, you can still make a difference. Right. And I love what you guys are doing. I love your organization. If you don't already, definitely give Voters of Tomorrow a follow. And yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you so much. You guys are doing great things. I'm so happy to be here. So yeah, thank you.
Hey, awesome. Well, I guess we'll go back to the news now. So yeah, once again, we can touch a little bit more on reproductive health care, or I'd say one thing in specific, because I know Grace talked about, and we mentioned bipartisan support. And so I think something interesting that happened this week is Biden signed the anti-Asian hate bill with bipartisan support. And so my question to the group is, do you think that this shows bipartisan support is possible, or do you think this is just a unique circumstance? And if not, if bipartisan support isn't possible right now, what do you think it will take for it to happen? Yeah. Liam, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start. I think it shows promise of bipartisanship happening, but I also think that it could very much not. I mean, it's the amount of people that voted against the hate crime bill is kind of shocking. There's way too many people that voted against. I think there's like 15 or 20 senators that voted against it, of course, including Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and all the crazy people that we should not even be in office. It's just, I'm not sure what could happen because the state of the GOP is in such volatile flux that this may be the only thing that we could do in the next 2 years of having some type of bipartisanship without having to do a Democratic, the 50%, the 51 majority vote. It really depends on entirely if the GOP decides to be sane or not. But I do hope that there is more bipartisanship because it's the only way that we can save our country and save it from eating itself, basically.
Yeah. Nick, do you have anything to say on this?
Yeah, I totally agree. Everything Liam said, 100%. But I do think that this is a good step in the right direction. But everything right now with the GOP, you can't really get your hopes up too much because there are still people, like you mentioned, like Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz in the Senate, who will keep trying to make their voices heard. And we just need to keep pushing forward to keep getting this powerful change into law, because this is a very, very good thing that I think will definitely spur very powerful and meaningful change in the future.
Yeah, well said. Arty, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think this is more about like compromise in government in general. But Biden kind of ran on this idea of govern kind of working for everyone. And but the thing is, what we're seeing, and I think Grace said this well, is that you can't compromise with people who don't believe in democracy. And although I'm not saying in any way that's a reflection of all Republicans, I think that's unfortunately become a true statement for a lot and too many people, too many officials in the Republican Party in Congress right now. And that gets really difficult when you're trying to compromise on different bills, because they don't really have a legislative agenda set for what they want to accomplish, and that can become dangerous. That's not to take away from the fact that I'm very happy that this bill passed, and I think what Biden's been doing leading this effort is amazing.
Yeah, well said. I think you're right, though, that it can be difficult to work with a party that doesn't support democracy as well. But I do think it also shows that the Democratic Party is the party that is willing to work with the other side. If you look at, for example, the infrastructure bill, Biden initially had the infrastructure bill at 2.3 trillion. And then the Republican Party countered that with a $600 billion bill. And then Biden says, here, we're willing to work with you guys. We'll do 1.7 trillion instead. And in the same thing with Obama, when it came to Obamacare, his initial proposal, Republicans were like, hey, can we have more money from Big Pharma? And Obama said yes, because he believed that it's such an important bill to be passed, and ultimately Republicans didn't vote for it. So I think you're right that it's definitely an example of, it's very similar to Grace, but I think also it's difficult to work with a party sometimes that doesn't even believe in democracy.
Yeah, my favorite is, I love how the Republicans, they keep coming up with this magical number of $600 billion. Like they did it for the past two stimulus bills, and now they're doing it for infrastructure. It's like, you do realize that $600 billion, you just can't make up a number and just hope that it will fix the issues that y'all caused. Like, you have to invest money. I mean, our roads and bridges are literally deteriorating right at the moment. So I don't understand why you don't want to invest in the next 50 years unless you enjoy swimming in the river when you're on your way to work. I mean, these people just don't make any sense when there comes to their governing. They just they're just so blatantly transparent in their idiocy and anti-government love. Their love of tyranny. It's just so insanely anti-democratic, and I still do not understand how these people are in power, and we just need to vote them out of office as soon as possible.
Absolutely. So yeah, kind of switching gears. I know earlier this week, and we can also go back to reproductive health care later, but I know earlier this week, Ford came out with the new electric Ford F-150. If any of you guys haven't seen the Biden video of him driving the car, I encourage you to do so. But my question about that is, to the group, is, do you think that companies like Tesla and also now Ford could serve as pioneers towards an increase in electric-made cars and owned cars? Liam, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, why not? The engineer in me is ripening to answer this question. Yes, I definitely think electric cars are the future. I mean, from a power point of view, it has to be electricity because obviously climate change. You cannot have gas cars forever. The planet's running out of oil. We are not going to be able to sustain having oil or gas powered cars much longer without killing our planet and going extinct as a species. And also, electric cars are much more economically viable and economically competitive. I mean, the new F-150 can tow 10,000 pounds. It has 300 miles of range, and you get a trunk and a truck bed. You get everything that's in a car and a truck combined in the luxury of a SUV, and you can also power your house in a blackout. I mean, that's the advantage of electric cars that you can never get in a gas car. And you get also much more, it's just the entire package is so much more economically viable and just easier and smarter to use. And people love electric cars. So I totally think this is going to be a complete game changer, because if you can get the 39% of all the vehicles on the road or the Ford F-150, if you can get that electric and have everyone go to electric trucks, the entire market's going to go electric, and gas cars are going to be the way of history.
Yeah, well said. Well, now I probably should get a Ford F-150 now, but I think something
now you can get the new electric Mustang. That's another fun one. That's basically the exact same thing as the F-150, but in car form.
There you go. Something that I've heard though, like I've talked to some people about it, and they said that the biggest thing for electric cars is the pricing, and that I know Teslas can be awfully pricey, and I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is close to 40,000. Do you think that there could be more affordable electric cars? Because obviously,
yes,
the environment.
You just have to do Elon Musk. I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, but his ideas of getting batteries cheaper is a very good idea, because if you can get, there's a tipping point of production versus cost. So if you can create a big enough production point for batteries, the cost eventually decreases. And that's our issue right now, is the way our battery tech runs, it's unsustainable. So we need to change how batteries work. And I think we're in the process of changing how batteries work. Hey, there's the video. And then we'll be much more able to get a lot more cheaper cars. But as you can see, our president right there is driving probably the coolest vehicle ever. And who would have thought that you have the coolest guy running? I mean, like, I just think compared to Trump acting like he can drive a semi-truck, this thing right, like, he just is like, he's just is acting like the coolest person ever, while Trump just looked like a fool trying to drive a tow truck that that he never ever would drive a semi.
Yeah, probably. Does anybody else have anything to say on this topic, or do you want to go back to reproductive healthcare? Or
let's go back to reproductive healthcare, because I think I want to hear what Ari has to say about that. She was unfortunately cut off in the middle of a fantastic thought train.
And I apologize once again. We just had
all good. I mean, I could go on and on about this, but like the thing is that what bothers me the most is honestly like the lack of effort and the lack of education surrounding legislation on this issue. I don't think people realize that this whole idea of 6 weeks, which again, we've talked about Republicans coming up with random numbers that aren't feasible. 6 weeks has to fit that bill again, just because most women aren't even going to know that they're pregnant until that 6 to 8 week window, let alone get an abortion before 6 weeks. Like, it's not something that's feasible for women to do. And we've seen Texas, Louisiana come and propose this. And although I most likely see that it's going to get revoked by the courts, it's just so problematic that we're kind of pushing harsher and harsher legislation on the state level in these red states in order to like pressure the Supreme Court to push back on Roe v. Wade. It's gone to a point where in Georgia, there's a literal bill. And I think this legislator that wrote it started off his testimony by saying, look, I don't know much about this issue. And I was like, why'd you write a bill on it then? But he went on to say that if a woman wanted to terminate, she could get her egg taken out of her fallopian tube, which it's not a procedure that exists. It's remotely not a procedure that exists. He basically wrote the earth is flat in a piece of legislation. So I guess that's my biggest problem. And we need women. That's the first thing. We need women making these decisions. There's far too many men, male politicians, making decisions about female health care and reproductive health. And I think that's just not okay. It's not representative in any way.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it should not be a male politician who gets to choose on what can happen with the female body. But well said. So I know the Texas bill is, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know too much about this, but I won't be signing law like Governor Kemp, not knowing too much about this, so it doesn't matter. But I know that the Texas one says that an abortion after 6 weeks, the person can get the person who had the abortion and the doctors, the nurses, and the clinical staff who performed the abortion could be criminally charged. Do you think that with things going on like that, even now, do you think that we can see progress, or do you think that progress is far in the future?
I think we need progress and we need it now. We needed it yesterday. I think in these red states, we need to focus on really looking at who we're electing and what they think about reproductive health care. Because frankly, it's been treated as an issue that you can put on the back burner, that you can't run on. And it's not. This is healthcare for more than half the country. And we really need to dial down on it. And we need to educate ourselves more and more about this issue. So I would say direct change is feasible now. If we dial down on those pieces of legislation before they pass and rally around them, we can make actual change. We've seen it happen in other states. We can do it again. This is not an issue that you can compromise on. The only person that should be able to make a decision about what to do with their body is the woman herself.
Yeah. I saw we got or Nick, or Liam, if you have anything to say on this, sorry.
All I was going to say is that men, especially men, but no one can tell a woman what to do with her body except that woman, and then on the advice of the doctor can she make a decision. That's literally it. No one has any other say in the thing, because there's no law telling men what to do with our bodies. So why the hell is there a law or laws telling women what to do with their bodies? It's so outrageously sexist and just it's just like, men, stuff it. You just shut up, basically, is what it's gotten to the point of. It's just like, this is why men suck, okay? Men suck in general.
All right.
I mean, it's gotten to the point where these doctors are supposed to be held liable for giving healthcare. And that gets so problematic. And just when I think about Planned Parenthood, for example, when you're taking, a lot of politicians are like, I'm going to take funding out of Planned Parenthood as a way of reducing abortions. What they don't realize is Planned Parenthood is reproductive healthcare and just healthcare for 1 in 3 women in this country, especially low-income women. It's cancer screenings. It's regular run-of-the-mill healthcare. And what you've just done is taken away healthcare from 1 in 3 women in this country. And that's not acceptable.
All because they somehow think that they're being strong and manly enough that it's perfectly fine to destroy women's healthcare and healthcare in general just to fit their ego. No. How many times do we need to tell you all that, again, a woman's body is no one's to control except the person who embodies it. Period. End of story.
Absolutely. Nick, do you have anything to say on this? Sorry.
No, I think everything has been touched upon. Only a woman can decide what to do about her body. There cannot be any other input from anyone, only maybe a medical professional if the woman wants it. There can be no male choices in this area. And when I see a picture of Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, signing this bill into law and proposing it and talking about it, and seeing that the crowd behind him is mostly white men, it's just very disgusting. and showing that this system needs to change, and there needs to be women who are leading this conversation and this movement.
Yeah, absolutely. We also need more women in politics too.
Yeah, Greg Abbott can just, at this point, no one likes Greg Abbott. He's the same as Hate Crime Holly and all those pathetic people.
Politicians. It's not about, like, I don't think, I'm sure they have morals surrounding abortion or whatever, but I don't think that's what this is about. I think it's them fulfilling their party's agenda, number one, but also making abortion safe and accessible actually reduces the amount of abortions that you have over time. We've known that. We've seen it statistically. So if they actually wanted, so all they're doing is increasing unsafe abortions. They're not fulfilling the goal that they're claiming to do with this legislation. They're just making situations worse for everyone.
They're fulfilling the goal of trying to please their party and their party's agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know we got a question from Jordy in the chat. How would you all encourage more students to get involved in politics at an early age? Does anybody want to start us off, or?
I can
Nick,
start
how about you start us off?
Yeah. Yeah. So really, like, for an example, like I got in politics fairly recently, like the summer of 2020. I was looking to get involved with Biden because I just loved his message so much and just could not take any more of Trump. So it's really just youth who need to be like engaged, and like when you see like a politician who you support, just finding the ways to get involved with them. And the ways you can do that is joining these types of organizations like Meidas Varsity Blue or Midas University. Or doing phone banking volunteering. It's very accessible. You can find it through most candidates' websites. There's different like tabs on the websites that we can maybe show about how to do phone banking volunteering or other types of organizing. So that's really the main first step to get involved, and really just talk and get out there and get your voice heard and just like learn about the issues that are important to you. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. I guess I could go. I was gonna like just reiterating some of the things you said, Nick. I think first of all, the biggest part of it is just engagement. I think that's what we need to do first, is for the high schoolers to get engaged and aware. And that's part of what this initiative is about. And I think once you get engaged, or at least for me, I realized that you can make a difference. And I know Grace mentioned this from Voters of Tomorrow, that it doesn't matter if you're a voting age or not, you can still make a difference. And I think just knowing that, me personally, when I just learning that, really encouraged me to get engaged. And so also, but another thing is also to have fun ways, and also to know that there are platforms for people to have their voice heard who are young, like like the rundown right here. So yeah. Arty, do you want to go? Or?
Sure. I was just going to say, everyone has something that they're passionate about. Find what you're passionate about, and there's most likely a way to get involved with it. And don't ever feel like getting involved in politics has to be this inaccessible thing, because I think your state representatives, your local legislators are more accessible than you realize. And also, please remember that it is your politicians, elected officials' job to listen to you and hear what you have to say and care about the things that you care about. So you're not an inconvenience to them. Make sure you get your voice out there. And platforms like these, Meidas Varsity Blue, is a great way to do that. I encourage everyone in high school to join. If you're in university, Midas University is a great option as well.
Yeah. To close this off, Liam.
Well, one way that I've always found that it's really important to be able to be involved in politics is to remember that your voice is your vote. That is the most important thing in politics, because I've been in elections where the deciding vote, like the margin of voting, was 100 votes. And that was all college students that won these elections. So we have, in young students, anyone that wants to make sure their voice is heard, just go and vote. And as long as you go to an independent source to make sure you read what's up and you just vote that is a humongous amount of impact in any politics in general. But if you want to get more involved in that, find, as Arty was saying, find something that you're passionate about. Find something that you enjoy doing and that isn't work for you, but is fun for you to do. Because the second you're able to find something in politics that you enjoy, you have so much more drive and ambition, and you will have fun changing the world, because that's what we can do in politics. It may seem mundane and people may say it a lot, but you actually can change the world very simply by just talking to others and just telling them about what's going on in the world. And especially making sure that you know that your voice and your vote and anything that you do, no matter how big or small, it matters. And people love hearing genuine stories from engaged individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Your voice is impactful. Well said by all of you guys. I think we're kind of closing now. If there's any other things we'd like to touch on, probably not. I think we kind of covered it. First of all, thank you guys all for coming.
I think we have one other thing. I think that someone commented we should come up with some Republican nicknames. So let's start with Arty, because I know she has a wonderful nickname for some of these fun GOP. What is your top 3 favorite nicknames for the most outrageous GOP currently?
Okay, so I've got 2 for one very significant figure, Mitch McConnell himself. Moscow Mitch, I love it. It's a classic. And then we've got Russia's. I won't say it, but both are great options for that. And I don't know. I think I normally just refer to all of them as clowns, especially the super right ones. But what do you think? We've talked about this, Liam, I think. So what do you think? We made a whole list of family names of
we come basically the entire GOP embodies what Karen, Kevin, Ken, and their entire family structure would be. It's gotten to that point of insanity that if you see a Karen at anywhere you go and you involve a Karen, you can most estimate that they are a crazy Trump supporting Republican, because they're just that insane. My favorite is Hate Crime Holly, because he, along with Ted Cruz, Cancun Cruz, and all these other insane people, voted against the hate crimes bill. I don't know how you can vote against the hate crimes bill and still not be considered technically a white supremacist, because they all are, and they supported the insurrection. My favorite is calling. There's so many. What's another good one? Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, is she could basically be called. She is the epitome of Karen. I mean, you cannot call Marjorie Taylor Greene and not think of Nazi Karen or white supremacist Karen. I think she's that insane. You cannot be that insane without, I don't know how to describe how crazy that lady is, but she's definitely someone that, Karen, exactly, thank you. That's basically what she is.
I love it. No, that's going to be the new one. I like it.
Nick, anything or?
My favorite one is also Evil Mitch. I've seen that in a couple of places. Also, Holly Hates America, or also just Cancun Cruz. That's just the best. Yeah.
He did that to himself.
Oh, he did. Oh, my favorite is Susan McCollins, because Susan McConnell. That's what it probably is or Susan McCollins. Those are my 2 favorite variations for Susan Collins, who, fun fact, is under investigation by the FBI right now for illegal campaign donations of close to $200,000 in lieu for an $8 million defense contract. That so.
I mean, we're not.
And her finance director knew all about it. So I love that they're trying to spin this and say, "Oh, well, it's only $200,000." Most Americans only make $70,000 a year on average. So $200,000 is more than 2 or 3 years' pay for most Americans. So to say that $200,000 in illegal campaign donations as a small thing is kind of admitting that that Susan Collins did illegally do campaign illegal funding for her campaign. So technically she illegally lost her election, or legally won her Senate election, in a way. Sorry, if y'all understood what I meant, I hope you did, because it's so confusing trying to describe these insane people who live in alternate realities.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Jonah, what is your favorite nickname? And also, we should ask anyone in the audience watching right now, please comment your absolute favorite thing to call or Republicans, or what is something that you've had to deal with, like talking to Republican family members that they just won't stop talking about that you know is false.
God, you're putting me on the spot here. Okay, I think Radical Review is a good one. I think I definitely like Moscow Mitch. I know it's a little outdated, but I was always a fan of Chicken Purdue and KK Kelly. I guess Queer now with the new one. Let's see. There's so many to choose from. But
I know there's a plethora of idiocy out there that we can just choose hashtags here and there and everywhere.
The name GOP or GQP at this point is just like the whole party is just a joke on its own. So yeah, probably GOP is my favorite joke.
Yeah. Okay, situations of like talking to Republicans is fine for the most part. It's normally talking to Republicans who are more so like I guess Republicans that reflect some of the politicians in government right now, because I don't think in general talking to conservative people is bad at all. But I've been in conversations about reproductive health care, and it's kind of like, but I don't want to get an abortion. And I'm like, you don't have to get one. No one's forcing you to. And I don't know. I think it's a level of brainwashing that takes over at a certain point.
Okay. Sorry, that one got me.
All right. Well, I think we should probably wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, please consider giving us a follow if you enjoyed this. You can see us on Meidas Varsity Blue on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Follow Midas University as well. We'll be on every single week, every Friday. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. Eddie, is there anything I'm missing or? No? Okay.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We are very excited to be here, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Yeah, and if you if you know someone that missed the live stream or you didn't get to see the whole live stream, we'll be posting it on our YouTube, and we'll tweet out the link for that shortly. Okay, well, take care, everyone. Okay, bye.